Welcome back to another One Piece card game video, and today we're to go over OP05 Enel. So he is going to be the next yellow leader that everyone's gonna play. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Katakuri is gonna be around for a while, and I think Enel just offers a different playstyle and his Woolix experience. He is a 5k leader with 4 life for a good reason. And on your opponent's turn, once per turn, when your number of life cards becomes 0, when you just hit 0 on your opponent's turn, you get to add 1 card from the top of your deck to your life and then trash 1 card from your hand. So obviously you're gonna have to trash 1 card regardless if you do this effect, but you know, you're gonna want to take advantage of the leader effect as much as possible because you're gonna be putting as many triggers as you want into your life. That kind of brings us to the Sky Island stuff. So if you haven't seen this stuff, there is a good amount of things that you can kind of take from it, and you know, I think Enel isn't the exclusive leader that can utilize all this stuff, right? Most of the stuff is generic. We have the searcher with Shura that looks at the top 5 that gets a Sky Island, which includes both characters and as well as event cards, which is nice. And his triggers to on play, which is also nice because you can pair this with the 8 cost Katakuri to put it back, get a searcher, or just, you know, just trigger it from your life. We have Satori, which is a 2k 5/5. You usually don't ever want to play him for 5. You really want to use him for his trigger and as a 2k, right? I think that's where they immediately balance this card in its cost, so that way you're not playing like 3 5s that trigger and then you have to pitch one and it's also a 2k, that type of thing. We've seen other cards like that because this is a 2k that has the 5 cost. Gidatsu. So this guy is pretty cool. He is a KO equal to or less of your opponent's life cards. You want to play this as early as possible because even you know, against all the non-multicolored leaders, you know, that's where it's going to be the most effective because they're going to have 5, you swing, they have 4 if you play against like green purple Dofi on their curve, they play Nami, and then you play this, you pop that, you know, it's those type of things and instances, especially like against like Zoro players love to protect their life for some reason. I think you should take the life in that leader, but sometimes they protect it and you just pop anything on their board with Gidatsu. So it's very useful in that case. But late into the game, it is just a 5/6 body. It's not too bad, just to play as a vanilla basically. Or very late, the 1 cost blockers, those are really good too. Then we have the I never know how to say his name, and the Holly package. I think I've been experiencing this with like yellow purple Croc, and you know, that type of thing, but like in this deck it really does suit Enel because like what happens is that you take all the life for the most part. You defend maybe 1 or 2 swings, maybe ones that are a little more difficult, but what and Holly does is that it just provides you a 2 5k swings and 6k after you have 2 or less life with and just like consistency, because what happens is that you can open up Holly and then you play him, you grab another Holly, and then now you have a 3/5 vanilla that you can play later on for cheap, or you can just set up another into Holly, because that's basically what it does. You look at the top 5, you grab a Holly if you have it, and then even if you didn't grab one, you can play a Holly from your hand. It is a bummer that you can only grab a Holly, but that's where Shura comes in order for you to set up both of those things. You never really want to play either one of these two unless you really have nothing to do and you have no other option. What you want to do is play Shura, grab one of the 2 dudes here, probably Holly, because it's a little harder to probably actually, and because it's a little harder to find versus Holly, because already finds Holly, so you may as well do that. And then you just add those pieces and you just play into Holly. I think it's great. I think it's a nice little engine that you can get going, and again, is not exclusive to Enel, which is great. Speaking of, the 7-drop rush card basically says that if it's going to get removed, you can trash a life instead of it being removed, and this is once per turn. And if there's a Monkey D. Luffy, apparently the effect is negated, so hopefully people in tournament don't forget that. I always forget. I am sure that's going to be a judge call sometime or another. But he is a 7/7 with no counter power, but the fact that he has rush basically allows you to have a 7k swing at the ready post 7 dawn that is really hard to remove. And I think what happens here is that you basically create a situation for your opponent that it is really easy to defend against a 7k body or 7k body unless they reduce it in red or something else like that, or if they bottom deck it or whatever. But even if they do that, like even if they swing into it or if they waste on to remove it, you can still just trash a life. And because it's on their turn, the Enel effect triggers if you're at 1. And usually you just kind of want to be at 1 anyway late game, because it's just easier for you to set up your Yamatos or your 8 costs into something else or whatever it may be. It's just easier for it to figure it out. And now it just kind of sits there, and you know, they're going to be you know, expending a lot of resources to get rid of him, which is why he's such a good card. And then my favorite card out of all the Sky Islands, at least maybe not my super favorite, I think I like all the cards here, but I think one of my favorites is this 200 million volts Amaru, which I think this translation doesn't have the numbers. I think the numbers, I don't know why they did that, but the activate main is that you choose one of your leaders or character cards. It gains 3k for the turn. If you have 1 or less life, which is gonna happen for sure through Thunderbolt and their swings, you rest up to 1 of your opponent's character cards with 4 or less, which this basically wins you the black matchup. It wins you like a lot of different matches, even like green purple Dofi. It rests their Uta. It gets you in range for their Luffy, and literally anything. Like this card I've really enjoyed, because it has also the same trigger as the other previous yellow cards, that you can trash 2 and then get another life, which basically if that trigger happens and they're trying to go for game when you're at 2, it basically makes you a 4 life leader at that point, which is just insane. It is great. It's awesome to put them in that position with all this other stuff on the board. And just in general, just having that 3k boost is similar to Sakazuki's event card, right? Where you have some utility that goes with it, and this is no different, right? This is a go for game kind of card. Let's talk about some trigger support. Most of the stuff you've probably already seen. It's not really too much of a big difference. If you are truly a beginner, if you are truly just starting out, all of these things have really good trigger effects, where Brule and Sanji are trigger blockers. Sanji you have to pitch because he is a 5k. Brule is just there because she is just a cheap blocker. Beige basically is a 2k that you have to pitch if he gets triggered, and then you say no to one of their leader or character attacks. Cracker is so good in this deck because you are starting at 4 as a non-multicolored leader, and more often than not they're going to be swinging at you, and all he really needs to do is just sit there until you're at a really good position to swing at them when you have less life, and that way you get that dual attack or that double attack along with these 1k boost. And then we have Buzzcut Mochi, which I didn't really like this card previously, but because Enel loves to live at 1, you get to KO a 4 or less for 2, and you get to play a trigger effect or a character with 4 that has a trigger effect from your hand, which means it's going to be your Sanjis, it's going to be your other Charlotte, it's going to be your Crackers, whatever it may be. Mochi is just awesome. I love this card. And then Thunderbolt, you gotta play 3 or 4 in this deck. You gotta have to play 3 or 4. You pop a 5 or less again against around those Borsalinos for Sabo and black matchups, whether it's Sakazuki or whatever it may be, and it is just a really deflating card for your opponent when they run into it. And now literally life support, where Katakuri allows you to stay at that point of 1. So what usually happens, and what can happen I should say, is that there's gonna be a time where you're gonna be at 2 or 1, you go down to 1, and they have a lot of attacks. If they have a lot of attacks, you have to defend it, and then they swing into your 1, you recover 1 with your leader effect, and then they swing it again. If you can't defend it, then you have to take it. And what Katakuri does allows you to have 2 more life. That's basically what he does. That's why he is so good in this deck. It's not so much of removal on their board. It's for you to make sure that you're staying at 1 for your leader effect, and for you to have a bigger body afterwards. That's the biggest point. Now, if you're in a position where they have a lot of attacks and you can't really deal with them, and you have to play the Katakuri, then you're probably in a more losing position that you need to be in, and there's not really much you can get around for that one. So I can't really give you, you know, that game's a wrap. I'm so sorry. But that is something to keep in mind. Like, go ahead and take those life, get those triggers out, get those bodies out, and then use Katakuri in order to get back to 1 after you go to 0. Yamato is the other side of it, where if you're at 1, then you want to play Yamato at any point in order to be at 3 life, essentially, right? So Yamato not only is really good removal, because sometimes people don't want to swing at you and they won't want you to be at 1. And if they keep a high life total on your end and their end, then now you can start removing 4 or 5 costed cards through Yamato. So, you know, this should be self-explanatory of what she does. But again, she is super essential to this deck. Now, here's the deck list. I've really enjoyed this deck list. It is not the same sort of ratios. It is the same cards. Like, don't get me wrong. It is the same cards that most people play. Buzzkill Mochi, and as well as the 2-cost event card, or probably some of the flex spots that you can have. We'll talk about considerations in a second. But, you know, I think the ratios for me and how I personally play the deck and how I enjoy the deck, I like, you know, having the removal for both of the buzz cuts, and as well as Thunderbolt into Gidatsu, you know, that type of thing. I like filling the board up. Brule is probably another flex spot in this deck. You could probably get rid of those and then just have some more event cards in your hand, like the ones that we'll talk about in a second. You know, those type of things. I think maximizing on all of the good triggers like Beige and like Cracker, things like that. You can probably play Smoothie too, right? You can play Smoothie if you really wanted to. Like, forget some of the other stuff that I'm talking about. Play Smoothie, play those things. But, you know, start out with this deck and see if this play style, as in like filling up the board, works for you. You can play more Enels, the 7 drop, if that is what you want. But I would suggest to kind of bring that back, because sometimes you do want to defend against yourself. You do want to do that. And having more non-counter cards, including event cards, doesn't allow you to do that. So just be careful with those ratios. Now, for this deck in particular, you know, for turn by turn, and as well as going first and second, you know, it's not too complicated. You know, there's not really much of a turn 1 going first, so you generally want to go second. That's just my suggestion. Everything kind of works out a little bit better dawn wise, and as well as curve wise. So it just makes a little bit more sense. But if you are going first, by turn 2, you want to play a Shura or a Holly. If you have Ohm, then you just wait until turn 3 to do that, and you just play a Shura, or you just use your Dawn to swing at their life. Because, you know, at the end of the day, you want to fill up the board, but you want to make sure that they take that life as well. Gidatsu is really good on curve going first if they have a board. If not, then just swing 6 with your leader, play the Ohm for 4, play the Cracker for 4. And now also is pretty good on curve, because now that sort of sets up you into having a body that they have to answer. If they remove it, then you're quicker to get down to 1, so the following turn should be Yamato and Yamato. And you know, Katakuri might be an option depending on what they play. This is usually, like, going first, I found that, like, you have a higher life total more often than not. You're usually at 2 or 3, so you may as well just play Katakuri to remove something on their end, and then just go from there. And now going second is a little bit better, because now you have the Shura into Holly, which is really just Ohm, because, like, you're either going to be playing Holly or Home, and you just play Ohm on 4, you play the Holly out, and then by turn 3 you can remove something like Gatsu, and it just goes a little bit better for yourself, and you have a little bit more Dawn to be flexible, because at 7 you still have 1 more Dawn to swing with 6 with the Gidatsu, or swing 7 with Gidatsu, or swing 7 with Ohm, that type of thing, because you're gonna be at that lower life total anyway. Now, considerations. Now, there's a lot of cool cards, you know, out there. There's a lot of cool yellow cards. There's a Big Mom package with a Pudding, and as well as Lin Lin. I didn't really like the Big Mom stuff. That's where I started out. I like Big Mom as far as the archetype in general. So that's where I started out with. I leaned back into the Sky Island stuff, which I also had El Thor, but I didn't like how it was situational. I wish it was reversed. I wish it was 2 or less life that you had instead of your opponent. And then again, that would be kind of broken, so maybe not. That's why we have arrow. I think if you are going to add in an event card, add an arrow. The reason why I didn't add it is because I didn't like that it wasn't searchable. So that's all it really was. There is a list and lists that incorporates some of the stages. I know I skipped over it, but some of the stages of Sky Island. So if you do end up playing that, you may as well play Konus. Kunis, dude, I don't know. Roast me in the comments. I don't care. It is a 2K counter that allows you to shuffle through, draw one and trash one after you place a stage, because the stage searches, as I remember correctly, and then you draw one, trash one after you play this one, and you can play Katakuri right after. So like you can just put this back in life, get the 2K counter back into your hand. Speaking of Shirahoshi, you know, I don't like Shirahoshi for a number of reasons. She is literally just a 1K counter to me because I never get the trigger. I will say that it's nice to kind of filter out your hand and things like that. But the reason why I built it the way that it is to reduce the amount of cards in hand that aren't useful, and as well as just not really rely on this, right? Like it's a bummer to rely on a card, on a trigger, because you're not paying 5 for this. I hope you're really not paying 5 for this. You got all this stuff to do other than pay 5 for this. It just doesn't feel good to me. It never felt good to me to play Shirahoshi. There is an argument for it because of the trigger. Like I said, that's pretty much it. But also you have to keep in mind that the more that you draw, which this is a net 1, right? But that net 1 could be the difference going against like purple Luffy or literally any of the other purple decks that will punish you for playing the trigger with law, right? So just keep that in mind when playing this card. That's pretty much it for the considerations. Let's get into the gameplay. All right, we're starting out with good old red purple law. We actually went to go second. They chose to go first, so that's fine. We do have the Holly combo, so may as well just keep that one there. He did swing 8, which means he didn't really have anything to play, which is good. And I like the into Holly here for red purple law, simply because they can get rid of one thing early on and kind of continue to do that until they have enough Dawn to get rid of multiple things. So I don't really mind, you know, one of these things getting got. But we did not play around the law. I got kind of greedy there, so that was my fault. But like I said, he's getting rid of one of these things. This is the wrong one to get rid of. He's supposed to get rid of the Holly. So this interaction is going to be pretty fun. If you didn't know, Ken says 2 or less life. If you're 2 or less life, he gains 1,000 power. It's just that the sim doesn't show that. It's just a permanent effect. Usually boosts and stuff like that will do that. So he said he didn't let it. He didn't let me bottom deck it. I was like, just read the first part of the effect, and that will answer all your questions. So he's a 6K. He's supposed to minus a 2 and then go into a 5. So he's just gonna have to take that L there. And that's one of the things here about learning these decks, right? That you have to kind of understand exactly some of the effects that are on the card. I mean, like, just read the card, and you know, that's not it's not too difficult here, but just be familiar with what these cards do and what the effects that they have. So he swung 5 here, got rid of one of our brulees. Don't really need it, to be honest. This is a little awkward for us because I really would like one of those or Hollies just to establish those again. But I went ahead and took the 2K counter because it was just it just felt a little bit better just to do that. I was going to swing into that ulti just for him to get some more cards out of hand, but I would rather swing 7s here and then also be more aggressive on our leader swing here too, just so he can dump some more cards out of hand, etc. And one of the things that we didn't see is that he didn't really play Sachi and as well as Beppo. And honestly, this game has been pretty quick. He's already at 0. I'm at 1. We already paid 3-4 bodies at this point, you know. So this game has been pretty quick in general. And with the lack of Dawn for him to use, he can't really close out the game, to be honest. He can get rid of one of my bodies, which is going to be that Gadatsu. into a brook, which is just not going to be enough here. We're just going to place all of our Dawn here, swing, and then give him a good old GG. So yeah, read your cards, fellas. That's all you really need to do. That's not just read the cards. All right, next up is old versus new. It's going to be Katakuri versus our Enel. This one's interesting. So like Ohm is really good against Katakuri in general, right? Because, you know, these 5k swings, they really don't want to get rid of their hand. They really don't want to take these swings in general. And we're just getting all the Katakuris. So we're just going to go ahead and swing here. I was going to play the Ohm, but I think drawing the cracker here and just having another cracker in hand might be a little bit better. Because now we can, he'll just basically sit there and be like, hey, if you want to try to get rid of it, you're probably gonna have the Thunderbolt, which is really good for me. He gets the Sanji off the trigger too, which is not fun. That is not cool at all. He did have the Buzzcut Mochi trigger. That's what got his Sanji out of hand, which is good for us because like I want him to have less and less cards out of hand. That'd be great. But he did Thunderbolt our own cracker, which is not amazing. We got a beige out of that. The wrong timing, unfortunately. Let's go ahead and pitch our own Sanji so we can swing at his. And I think we just play another cracker. Our hand is not like amazing because this is what happens with a lot of yellow decks and this deck in general. He's also Thunderbolting, so that's fine. But we do have things that we just simply cannot counter out of, or counter out of with, I should say. So that's it's pretty annoying. We are going to get to 10 Dawn, if I am correct. No, 8 Dawn. So we do have our Katakuri if you really wanted to, which is fine. We have our Holly, etc., etc. I think it's probably a better play to grab whatever with Shura. We can play the Gatsu. I think that's fine too. More and more bodies on board would be great. Don't really have to waste anything. If you took that one, that's kind of a W for us. I mean, sure, we should have done Gadatsu first into popping Sanji, but I'd rather just make sure that he gets a card out of hand first. So we kind of set up here where Katakuri basically says that we can stay at 1 life next turn. We're not going to use the Thunderbolt unless we're really desperate. Like if we run into a Brule, like this Brule here, sure, we can do that. But I think this next turn says that we are definitely going to be using Yamato to pop that Brule and then just go for face at that point. I want to swing with the Gadatsu first, simply because, you know, we could get Thunderbolted or beiged, and we'd rather have that value of the 7k swing. So he hasn't played a 7-drop, hasn't played the 10-drop, or he's looking at putting as well, which means he's either breaking or playing this probably more, or probably differently than he should, right? He could play a Sanji, he could play a something else. That's an easy trash, by the way, because he only has 1 more swing, and that 1 swing goes into my 1 life, which means I'm just going to take it. And he's going to go swing into Gadatsu, which is kind of a bummer that we couldn't get out of it, but we're just going to go ahead and put some Dawn on our Yamato, and I think that's it. Couldn't even say GG, unfortunately. All right, next up is Sakazuki. So we didn't like that first hand. We mulliganed, and we chose to go second, which is nice, because now we have Ohm into Holly. We didn't really have much of a play otherwise. So with Sakazuki, I think it is like 70-30 his favor. There's a lot of things that we can't remove, like that Borsalino he just pitched, and there's so much removal in his deck that takes care of our Holly engine, which, hey, shout out to this, because now we're just going to keep swinging 6s, and we're just going to play another Holly that Ohm found another Holly. So that's easy counter power, where we have 3 bodies on board that he has to take care of, which Rob Lucci does annoyingly takes care of pretty easily. So that's why this matchup is kind of difficult, because all you're really playing is like Datsu. You're playing these lower costs up until like Yamato, and as well as Katakuri, which you can play like other bigger bodies, like the other Linlin that we talked about earlier in the video. But like, look at this. This is This is ridiculous. But on the bright side, you know, we are at a point where we can just kind of swing pretty hard here. But what I did was just play Enel. Enel kind of helps in this matchup where if he does remove it, then he has to use a good amount of Dawn to do it. We just trash your life and then we just protect ourselves from there. And the only bad side about Buzzcut is that we can't use it. We can't use it. It would have been perfect against this Rob Lucci, but it just didn't work out that way. So he's gonna swing here Holly at 7 and play a Sabo. So which is fine because I think we can just swing at him. The only downside of this is that now we can't use Yamato to pop anything here. So he immediately blocks. That was like the quickest block I've ever seen. So swinging 8, got 2 cards out of hand, which is good for us. He's gonna swing a 7. That's unlucky for him. For that guy here, I think we can. This is the bright side about not using cards or using cards that are less useful now, which is we can just pitch it. And he automatically concedes. I just hit him with the GG LOL because, like, at least play it out, man. Damn. like we come on now. I guess his hand was just not great. So that, I mean, that makes sense. I can't really falter him. Plus he had 3 swings. I had 3 life technically and some cards in hand. So like it's yeah, I get it. I get it. It's I should have said LOL. That's bad. That's BM. Either way, let me know what you think in the comments below. If you want to see more gameplay or whatever else decks in the format for OP05 and for me to experiment with, let me know in the comments. You guys are so quiet. It is crazy. If you got this far, please let me know, because you can't just be watching and then clicking out. That's just crazy. But if you do, hey, I can't fault you for that one. But hopefully I'll be covering some of the other lesser formats or lesser decks. I like betting a lot, so I'll probably do that one. Sabo's really cool, and probably experimenting with Yellow Purple Croc with some of the Sky Island stuff. But that is it. I'll see you in the next one. Later.